Thank you very much indeed, everybody, for joining us today. We're super excited to be here. Thank you for joining us on what is essentially the first of 4 Salon Business Collective events. And I'm joined today by Antony Whitaker. Anthony's going to be helping me today as I go through our presentation on chunking KPIs and ways basically that we can communicate to our team members in different ways. And what we want to do is to think and demonstrate different ways within which we present what could be fairly normal information for us to use within the salon and inspire different behaviors from our team. So before we get into it, just a quick introduction from myself, and then I'm going to ask Antony to introduce himself. So my name is Ian Egerton, and I am the founder of Loop HR. And Loop HR is HR software designed specifically for the salon and spa industry. Our focus is very much around the relationship between the business owner, their business, and the employee. So we have tools for the business owner and we have tools for the employee. Okay, and Antony, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Antony Whitaker, and I'm a hairdresser, author, business coach, podcaster, etc. And we thought that as part of this series of seminars for the Salon Business Collective, that some of us, not necessarily all of us, are going to try a different format of presenting where we do more of a Q&A, sort of co-host the session. And so that's what I'm doing today. I'm basically being you, the audience, and I'm going to sort of ask Ian the questions as we go, so that hopefully I'm asking the questions that a salon owner will be thinking about as Ian goes through his charts and talks about these new integrations that he's put together for Loop HR. So so that's it. That's what I'm going to do. Hopefully I find the right balance between interrupting him, so to speak, and letting the flow work. But I know what it's like when you're in an audience. If you don't understand something, you sort of get stuck and you don't move on at that point. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump in there, ask him questions, get him to sort of clarify things that I think that the typical salon owner will be thinking about. So Ian, back to you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Antony. And also on that point, you have the ability to ask questions. At the bottom of the screen, you'll find a Q&A button. So just click the Q&A rather than the chat, Q&A, and Antony or I will be able to pick up your questions as we work our way through. Okay, so Antony, what I'm going to do is I'm going to dive in and I'm going to share my screen. And we're going to start with a very small presentation in PowerPoint. And I'm going to walk through the KPIs. Now, it's called chunking. It's basically a relatively new term, but it essentially means pulling together a series of information. And what I've done is I'm looking at KPIs within the salon industry, and I'm pulling them together and putting them under a title. So we're going to start with client care, and we're looking at a combination of things that, in my world, this is what client care looks like. But obviously, every salon owner, every manager has their own ideas on what would be good in their chunked group of KPIs. So we'll start with rebooking rates. And what I'm going to do is just highlight that one thing. So I've set a target in this example for a rebooking rate for my particular team member. I want them to achieve 50% rebooking rates. And we can see under the next column achieved that they've achieved 52%. And then as we go down, we've got new client retention, and my goal, their target is 60%. I want them to retain 6 out of 10 new guests. I would find that quite acceptable in the salon or the location that I'm in, but they've achieved 43%. So they're underperforming in that particular area. And then we have client retention. Again, my goal for the team member is 75%. They've achieved 79. And positive client feedback. I would expect at least 95% of feedback coming in to be really positive for the team member. Now,
Ian, can I jump in right there and ask a couple of questions? First one is this per stylist? So you get this metric for every individual. I think we all know the answer to that. So the second question is, can you also do the same screen for the salon as a total?
yes. Yeah, you could do both. And certainly what we're looking at right now, and in my thought and presentation, this is very much about an employee, but I think knowing these numbers obviously is very helpful as a business. If you were to do it as a company group or chunked product target, you would then give yourself a very, very clear idea on the strength of your client care against what it is that you really, what is your ambition as the business owner. Now, that bottom number, 95%, I just want to show you how we got to that number. And I'm very, very aware that percentages can blow people's minds sometimes. So Anthony, please ask questions if I'm not explaining it clearly enough. But let's just make it simple in the sense that we're going to look at rebooking. These are the same KPIs, the same group, Client Care. Our goal was 50%. They've achieved 52%. So that essentially means they're overachieving in that particular KPI. But in the new client retention, their goal was 60%, and they've achieved 43%. So they're underperforming. So in that particular case, they've only achieved 72% of their goal. Does that make sense so far?
Yeah, yes, it does. Question, does the back end of the system work all this out, or do you have to manually put that information in?
So at the moment, it's manual, but within Loop itself, what we do is we're building something called career progression. And this is the foundation of our career progression tools. And we have a series of chunked KPIs that we're going to go through today. And Loop will actually do the calculations for you. But we need the information. So for example, Salon IQ, who is part of the Salon Business Collective, as some other good point of sale systems will do, they will give you this data within your point of sale system. So,
right. So the manual bit,
yeah,
at the moment is just transferring the information from your point of sale system into Loop.
yeah.
It's not actually working out the percentage. The percentage will already be shown in your point of sale, and you just put it in the.
You just put them. You put in your own target within Loop. You put in your own target that you think looks good. So for any of the KPIs that we're going to share with you. Or indeed any KPI that you want to run, because you'll be able to type in your own.
Yeah.
And then let's say rebooking, and you say 50% is good for your business. The number that we need from your point of sale system is the 52% or whatever that percentage is. And then the 104% is worked out by Loop.
Got it. Okay. One more question before you move on. Things like rebooking, new clients and client retention. So new client retention and existing client retention, I'm assuming that's what that is. They're measurable. So your system will give you a number. But when you look at things like feedback, how do you, like you've got target 95%, achieve 95%. What is that a measurement of? How are you arriving at that metric?
Again, most good point of sale systems will have a feedback system straight through their point of sale. So when a guest leaves the business, they will receive either a text message or an email and ask them to rate their experience. So again, it is actually a measurable thing, which again can come from your point of sale system. And if your point of sale system doesn't do that for you, then you can find other ways to measure feedback. But essentially, we're looking for feedback as a business to establish what good looks like, or the areas that we need to improve on.
Okay, got it. All
Yeah,
right.
and there's just one other thing that I want to just highlight. If somebody wants to do this manually, how do we get to 95% achieved? Well, the target, each individual target is whatever it is, 50, 60, 75, or 95%. But that is your 100%. That's what you've decided good looks like. And what has been achieved is these various numbers: 104, 72, 105, and 100. And what we do in the background, what we will be doing when we release this feature within Loop is, the system will go, okay, there are 4 categories within client care. We add up all those numbers, all the totals, and divide them by 4 to give us an overall client care number.
Got it.
Make sense?
Totally. Yeah.
Cool. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next category, and clearly it'll get a little bit quicker now that we've explained how the calculations are done. And I've picked. We've got 9 categories to look at today, but I've picked 3 to focus on, and they cover sort of quite different areas. This one is accelerate. And within Accelerate, what I mean by that is anything that's going to grow the employees column quickly and efficiently. So we've looked at, say, 5-star Google reviews. I know the value as a salon owner getting 5-star reviews. So if you're going to benchmark somebody with a target of 10 for a month or whatever period you want to use, and they achieve 12, they're overachieving. That's brilliant. Okay, so that's they're really helping the business and helping grow their column. Then we have client referrals. In this example, we're asking the team member to have 5 client referrals in a month. They've achieved 3. It's still good, but they haven't reached their goal. But we've also asked them to produce social media content, 5 pieces of social media content. They've produced 6, so they're overachieving. And then we have community value. Now, this is an arbitrary element. I give you that. However, you could say, well, does somebody buy their lunch in the local community? Do they drink or eat in the local bars and restaurants? Do they do charity work? So in this example, we've literally just picked some random numbers to demonstrate that in Accelerate, if we had these sorts of numbers, the team member was doing really well. They were 112% using the same mathematics, 4 elements, your 100% versus the calculation divided by 4 to give us 112.
Okay, can I jump in there, Ian? If as a salon owner, you looked at, say, community value as an example, and you thought, oh, I'm not going to have that. Can you just delete that from the dashboard? Can you replace it with something else? You can put whatever you want in there.
Whatever you want.
If you think there's something else that's a better measurable thing as a criteria for Accelerate. Okay.
Yeah. So what we do in Loop is we want to provide the platform and give people the ideas. And if somebody wants to completely change all of those categories, that's perfectly fine. And in fact, if somebody doesn't want to use a category, that's perfectly fine. But at the end of the day, not every category is going to suit every business, and not every element within a category is going to work for a business or a particular team member, potentially. Because, of course, we have people who have different roles within the business. And I think probably one of the things that we really are very proud of the work that we do is we help the salon owner create the culture within their business. So this is this next level. It's utilizing the data that is produced by your point of sale system. It ties into our reward systems that we also use. Okay. Any other questions on Accelerate before I move on?
No, that's good. I like that.
Thanks. Okay, so again, this is another very different element. So this is personal development planning or skill development. So this is very much about the team member, and it is again something that we believe is measurable. So we think that if you're going to set somebody a task to learn something, we like a combination of soft skills and technical skills. So I think in your course, don't you do something with soft skills for your employee training?
Yes, I do. I mean, soft skills, basically communication skills. Sorry, you caught me a bit on the hop there. I was just looking at some questions that had come in. Soft skills, I think today is more important than ever because we live in this time where people are very young hairdressers are more likely to be, really good on their phone. So digital skills of communicating, but less effective with soft skills, that face-to-face element. And so I think as salon owners, making sure that we develop those soft communication skills is more important than ever. So yeah, that's a good call there, Ian. Ian, I just wanted to I did have a couple of questions that had come in the chat there. And I didn't actually see them, Jonas, before I asked Ian those questions. I think that he's already answered them. But if you feel they haven't been answered, please just jump back in the Q&A section because I think we've already covered those. So obviously you and I were thinking about the same thing at the same time. So thanks for that, Jonas. Don't hesitate to jump back in there. Okay, Ian. So back to you. So PDP. Personal or professional?
Yeah. Personal development planning is essentially what this means. And again, it doesn't just cover skills, but I think probably one of the things on soft skills, this could involve the client journey, the consultation. It can involve retail sales. This is training about language, about how can we get the employee engaged more? Well, if we're really very, very specific on what it is that we want them to achieve, we can focus their soft skill training just as much as their technical. So moving on, the personal development element of this really is about what does the employee want to learn? And again, this could be over a longer period of time. It doesn't need to be over a month. It could be over a quarter. It could be over any period of time. And again, within Loop, you can actually set timelines for each group of skills. And then we have mentoring. Again, these are just examples, and I'm very confident that people will have their own ideas on what should go in each of these chunked categories. But by mentoring, what I mean, or what it could mean, is either one-on-one mentoring for the individual, or they could be the mentor and they could have 5 sessions that they have to deliver as part of their role within the business. Anything that is measurable, that is going to bring value to the team member, I think that putting it in a little group of things just makes it feel less onerous. And also it allows people to shine in areas that maybe a traditional way of measuring sales doesn't necessarily always come through.
Got it. Okay, Ian, a question Corinne's asked. She said, Could we have more examples for soft skills, please? So I think that since you typed that in, Ian's already been sort of illustrating some of those things, but essentially soft skills, communication skills. So how do you measure it? It could be, shameless plug here, Ian mentioned that I had a program, a course called Super Stylist. So the target might be to do the Super Stylist course or read the Super Stylist book on soft skills. And then that transfers down into the examples that Ian gave with, for example, consultations. So you're wanting them to get more effective, better at their consultations. So in order for that to happen, it's maybe a book, maybe it's a course, maybe it's some role playing, something that you can go, yeah, you've done that, you've achieved that, let's move on. And I dare say it's the same for personal development. It could be, I want you to read this book, or I want you to do this course that's not directly about cutting and coloring hair, but it is developing the individual in totality. Anything to add there, Ian?
No, I think that's good. I think I think that's pretty much covered the soft skill element, and technical skill obviously speaks for itself. But I just think, and the point of this, and I really appreciate you being here, and I really appreciate you asking questions. So thank you for those that have put questions into the chat. What we want to do in each of these elements, and I'm going to move on right now and show you 6 other elements. And the reason that we're doing 6 in one time is because there's a lot to get through. But essentially, if we were chunked together KPIs for different elements, we can look at service sales. We could look at retail sales. You can look at services themselves. You can look at time. You could look at employee ambition. And you can pull all of this together as part of your progression mapping, which is all part of what we do within Loop HR. So let's look at service sales, because I know that traditionally we look at a week's sales or a pay period sales goal. And what we are looking at here is an optimum hourly rate. An optimum hourly rate, we've got £70 as an example. It doesn't matter the currency, but 70 is our target. And you can see that the individual has achieved, so we have our optimum hourly rate of 70, and they've achieved 63. So I'm going to explain what the target optimum hourly rate is. For each operator that you have in your business, if you have different pricing tiers, either for hair or beauty services or whatever services that you're offering, you would maybe have a cut and finish price at 50, 55, 60, 65, 70, whatever your price ranges are. So this would be on an individual employee basis. And that optimum hourly rate really would be based on their most common services that they deliver. And what do they generate? What is their potential? Not do they? What is their potential based on their pricing? So the easiest would be if you have a cut and finish price, which is then probably their most popular service, at £70, and it's for an hour, that answers that question potentially. So we set that as their goal, but you do need to do some work, have a look and see on your pricing. I'm going to take a step back, and I just want to explain. Traditionally in the salon industry, we have set targets based on somebody's pay. So a multiple of their pay, 3 times, 3.1, 3.2, whatever it may be, 3.5. What we're doing is we're stepping away from that, and we're looking at the optimum income per hour that they can bring in. And then what we have is a minimum amount, which is their threshold before their commissions and bonuses kick in. I cannot demonstrate this very easily on this screen. I will demonstrate it a little bit later. But essentially, an optimum hourly rate, and then you can have an optimum daily goal, or you could make it a weekly goal, whatever it is that you want to focus on. So if you want to focus on money, that would be a way, particularly given the way that we have been setting goals, as I say, as a multiple of somebody's wage. Minimum pay rates are only going to continue to escalate, and multiplying a minimum pay rate by 3 or 3 point something, sometimes those targets are too high, and there's a disconnect between what the employee thinks is achievable. If the employee sees that their cut and finish price is at the level that they know that it says on the price list, that's not unreasonable. Does that make sense, Anthony?
Yes.
Good. Okay, so the minimum daily threshold we will discuss in a little while. And we can see that with the figure that they're bringing in, their optimum hourly rate is £70 and they're achieving 63. So they're achieving 90% of their financial capacity.
Ian, I will just jump in and say, maybe I was a bit flippant when I said yes.
Okay.
It makes sense. It makes sense to me because I've seen the other screen that you're going to share with people in a minute. So if anyone's looking at that thinking, oh, I'm not quite sure about that, just hold on a minute, because I think it becomes, solidified a bit more when you look at it in a different screen. So yeah, carry on, Ian.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So in retail, I'm going to don't really want to focus on the numbers. I just want to explain why retail is in there. Sometimes people think retail is just the products that we sell. You could potentially look at people selling transformational packages. So that could be a skincare package. It could be a hair extension package. It could be a hair treatment, a series of treatments over a period of weeks or months, so that a client is going to take a hair from wrecked and ruined to fabulous and really healthy. So, we just need to think differently, potentially, about how we communicate retail goals to people. Gift cards. Again, this is a bit of an old one, but I think it's very, very favorable to give team members something to focus on, shake it up a little bit now and again. So if somebody retails 5 gift cards in a month, this can go towards their retail KPI potentially. I'm not suggesting individual rewards for each element. I'm just saying as a group, you can put a whole pile of things together as a retail. Services can be broken down into numbers of clients, average service value, service split, technical. Nothing new in here. The newness is bulking things together and not focusing on a single element, allowing us to give recognition in areas where people are doing well. But by chunking things together, we can very clearly highlight areas where people need maybe to improve.
I really like it. And I don't know if anyone else has done it. I haven't seen it if they put it together quite this way, but the way you're chunking those things together and some of the titles, progression, accelerate, ambition, I think is very good, because I think, these days, point of sale systems can give so much information, so many numbers, that people get sort of number overwhelmed, and then they go into sort of analysis paralysis. So by chunking these things together, I think it's great. I think it's really good.
Great. Thank you. Again, this is part of the career progression mapping that we have, and we'll focus on the progression element in a minute. Time, again, without getting bogged down in the detail, if somebody's paid for 40 hours and they're revenue producing for 32, and they've got 2 hours of learning, then they've got 6 lost hours potentially. So we have a productivity rate. You could potentially have time as something that is that we keep an eye on. We focus on it, particularly for people. Again, you can use different KPIs chunked. for different team members, depending where they are in their journey. If you've got a newer team member and we need to focus on what they're doing with their time, this isn't something that we need for a stylist or a therapist that's been with us for 2 years, they've got a full column of work. So it's different. The story, the narrative, the way we communicate is different. Ambition. Ambition, I believe, is something that I deliberately haven't put numbers here because it's completely, could be completely arbitrary. However, ambition, what is the stylist therapist ambition? Your receptionist ambition, your trainee's ambition, whoever it is in your business. As part of our performance review process that, again, we have in Loop, we encourage people, as in the salon managers, to have an ambition element to it so that they're getting their team members to be ambitious in their thinking. We don't need to be, I don't believe, afraid of team members being ambitious. Or successful in what they do. Our goal is to provide people with a space so that they can elevate themselves. So long as it's measured and so long as the value that they bring to the business is on an even keel. I, like yourself, Anthony, over the years have probably seen some train wrecks where you've got somebody who's bringing in thousands of pounds or dollars in a relatively condensed period of time, but they bring very little other value to the business. And the salon owner is almost kept hostage by the fact that this person generates a lot of revenue, but they're not bringing other value into the business. What we're doing here is giving the salon owner tools to be able to identify the areas of strength and areas where guidance may be needed. Okay, moving on to...
Can I just jump in there? Sam has jumped into the chat and just highlighted what we've already said, is that it's important to focus on 3 to 5 KPIs at any one time. And I couldn't agree more, but often one of the challenges salon owners say, yeah, but which 3 to 5? And the answer is it depends, because different businesses have different things that they want to measure. So I often use as the example, if you're a salon in a holiday resort or in a hotel, you're probably not going to measure rebookings because a lot of your business is fairly transient. Likewise, a lot of barbershops don't rebook. Some do, but a lot don't. So again, monitoring rebookings and that sort of business, or percentage of clients that have color in a barbershop would just be a waste of time. So you very much have to pick the KPIs that are appropriate to your business, which goes right back to that question I asked you earlier on, Ian, where I said, can you delete some of these line items or change them to something else? And as you said at the time, yes, you can take out whatever isn't relevant to you, or add in things that you think are particularly relevant to your business. So thanks for that, Sam. Back to you, Ian.
Okay, thank you. Progression. What I want to do is I'm going to go into the next slide, and based on what Sam has just said, I think that we will answer that question. So what I've done, Sam, is I've looked at 5 of these chunked group. So we've brought service sales, accelerate, skill development, time, and client care into the progression map. Okay. And I need my operator to be performing well in at least 4 of these areas before we can consider them for progression. Now, progression could be to go up to the next tier of pricing. It could be a pay increase. Again, this is really, really subjective, but the purpose of today is to demonstrate ways within which you can group information by pulling everything into one. So particularly, let's say client care, because that's really, really important. If you think back to the first slide and we talked about rebooking rate, we're not being unreasonable saying 50%. Again, to Anthony's point, it depends where your business is. And that's why it's important that you choose or you group client care KPIs in a way that match your business. And you could potentially just choose 2 or 3, not 4. My job is to give you the ideas or suggestions, and you consider what is going to be best for your business. But in this example, so I've got service, accelerate, skills, time, client care. All those titles are here. And you can see that overall, in my example, we've achieved 92% of everything that we're looking to achieve. Do we need them to hit 100%? I would say yes. That's the purpose of doing this, because at anywhere along these 5 elements that we've looked at, we're not being unreasonable. Now, you would create your own and you would decide what was reasonable and right and appropriate for your business. But if you have somebody who's in the 90s heading towards 100, I would be saying to this particular stylist, under your personal development plan skills, you've got 76%. You could very easily move that to plus 100 by completing your technical training, which from that particular slide, they hadn't achieved their technical skill. You can see that right here. So by breaking these elements down, we're able to identify how we can help the team member move forward. We want to elevate people. We need to find a way to do that. If this sounds complicated, then I think, like all new ideas, they need to resonate a little bit. And because it will be built into Loop HR as part of our career progression mapping. Right now, what we do is we manage this externally through a series of CPD, PDR, and our salary packages, but we're pulling it all together for you. And because we are able to work with Salon IQ, for example, who are part of the Salon Business Collective, because we are integrating with Salon IQ. Now, this is something that is in the early stages, but as we do, we will be able to pull some of this information in for you. Certainly the results, and this is great news. It's great news for Salon IQ users. It's great news for Loop users. But even if you cannot do it automatically pulling in the results, it really doesn't take very long to do. So let's move on. Career.
You've got a couple of questions there. I'll just jump in and put one to you, and I'll answer one myself. The first one was from Anna, who said, I missed the client care calculations at the start. Will you go over it again at the end? The client care calculations, Anna, come straight from your point of sale system. So there may very well be point of sale systems that don't tell you what rebooking rates are, new client retention and client retention. But I think any point of sale system worth its salt is going to give you those numbers. So you take those numbers from your point of sale and you manually, at this point in time, put them into your Loop dashboard, which will then convert whatever those percentages are. As for the last one there, which says positive client feedback, Ian sort of gave the example of, and again, not every point of sale system is going to have this, but he sort of gave the example of, perhaps you have like a 5-star review thing, so when you're checking out, can you rate us 1 to 4 stars? And so positive client feedback might be 95% of them were 4 stars or above, or 5 stars, or whatever it is. I hope that makes sense. Ian, have you got anything to add to that one before we go to the next question?
For the client care question, you need greater clarity. Just drop an email in the chat, and we will pick it up, and I will get back to you after the event. The same with anybody who's got questions. Just reach out to me. I'll answer questions as best I can.
I think that's Ian's way of saying, Antony, will you shut up? I need to get through this. Ian, I'm sorry. There is another question here from Donna, which is a very good question, actually. She said, following on from Sam's question, could you have different KPIs for different members to motivate them individually, and then one for the salon? So I'm not sure. Yes, you can have different numbers that you associate to those KPIs, but I'm not sure whether she's meaning, can you have completely different thing that you're measuring?
I believe that you should be able to have completely different things that you're measuring, because I think that that's going to be relevant to different team members. I would, and Martin, my head developer, sorry, but I would say by the time we have completed our career progression planning element within Loop, then people will be able to choose individual goals. I think that that's important. And again, if you're going to have something for the salon which is overarching, then essentially it would make sense if it related to whatever individual KPIs that you've got. So maybe you take your chunked groups, and you can even chunk a couple of them and create a new title for the company.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I've just thought of a very practical example of that. If you had a salon, and let's say everybody in there, that you had two people who were just barbers. So, and everyone else did ladies' hair and or men's hair. But let's imagine you've got two people that are just barbers. Well, with those two people that are just barbers, then you probably wouldn't have a metric to measure the amount of color they did, for example. But you would have a metric for everybody else in the salon that measured what percentage of their clients had color. So that would be a very practical example of that, where you could have an individual chunking down that reflected different, different criteria that you're measuring. But then as a salon, you would still have one that showed all of those metrics. Yeah? Does that make sense?
Makes sense to me.
Right. Okay. I'll get out of there, and I know you've got a lot to carry on with. So let's go.
Okay, so from the element of career progression, I wanted to, and as I had said I would do, is go into the salary package element. So let's skip into that. When we talk salary packages, I want you to think in a slightly different way of maybe the way that you're thinking or do typically think when it comes to salaries. The first thing we tend to do is go to the money. What am I going to pay them per hour? And what I want somebody to do really, and I encourage people to do, is from an employee, what does the employee want versus the value that they bring into the business? So we've got, let's say, for example, they wanted flexible working for some reason or another. Here we've got childcare or specific hours on a certain day. What excites the candidate about the industry or their job or the products or the brands that you use? Do they appear to understand numbers? These are the things that I believe that as employers, we need to understand about the person that's in front of us. Are they technically strong, emotionally intelligent? Each of these elements brings a value to the business. And where are they in their career? Because it's very different if you're sat talking to somebody who's young, up and coming, they're in their 20s, or they're relatively new into the industry, versus somebody who's been in it for a long time and they're just looking for security and somewhere to unpack their equipment and just get on with their day job. And then I think that we really need to consider the sort of offer that is going to work best for the person that's in front of me. So these can be different, and it doesn't necessarily have to all hinge on money. So my first question is, Anthony, as the voice of people in the room, does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool. Then we'll move on to the pay and incentive options. So again, different people are going to be motivated by different things. And within Loop, just to be perfectly clear, each of these salary options are pre-built into Loop, and they I believe, work differently for different businesses. So I'm going to start with performance pay. Performance pay is a base pay, and on top of the base pay, you would add a performance bonus, a personal bonus, and a super bonus. Each of these bonuses is designed to reward whatever it is you choose to reward. It can be sales, it can be elements of performance, it can be KPIs, whatever. But essentially, we're focusing people, our team or the individual on this particular pay structure. We're focusing them on a specific task or a specific goal. And it moves away from the focus being on a commission percentage. So we're shifting from I want 33%, I want 36%, or whatever it may be. We're focusing on achieving a goal. It could be the goal that we talked about earlier, which is the optimum hourly income. And we know that if you've got your optimum hourly income and we have a minimum target threshold, when you achieve your minimum target threshold, your performance bonus kicks in. So it's called a driver. And it acts very, very differently than commission. So then we've got our classic commission structures. So your base pay plus commission. We've got base pay plus low-level commission. This is really interesting way of paying commissions, and it can work well in certain scenarios. And usually it's about the way you want to communicate sales, to be perfectly honest. And then, of course, we have the big one. This is typically bigger in the hair industry than it is in beauty, but base pay or commission, whichever is higher or whichever is greater. And then we have base pay plus team bonuses, where you've got a rate of pay based on the value you bring to the business. So you could have 5 employees, 10 employees, and they all earn based on where they are in their pricing level as their individual income. But then there is a team bonus, which is based on the company performance. So there are your 5 different salary packages. I'm not going to spend any more time on those because we're running out of time, but I will ask Anthony, do you have any questions on that?
Not on that, but a question did come in from Kerry before, who said, within Loop, do you show an industry standard for all of the KPIs we're talking about, so that while you're building your own values, you know how you compare across the board at an industry level? How do you answer that?
So in Loop, we don't, but I do give, so everybody that uses Loop gets to work with me, and anybody can ask me any questions that they want to ask me. That would be the quickest way.
And I'll chime in there and say, in the next Salon Business Collective presentation that I'm doing with Sam, I will be talking about some industry standard metrics that are a pretty good base point to start from. So everything sort of integrates, between what Salon IQ are doing and what I'm doing and what Ian's doing. They do sort of all, make up a different, and what Phil's doing, all do make up a different part of the puzzle. So back to you, Ian.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to the next element, which is benefits. So once you've established the person, what it is they're looking for, the value that they can bring to the business, and you've aligned a pay structure to them, we can now think about the benefits that we're going to offer. Benefits generally would be something that should benefit the employee. I think sometimes we offer things as employers and don't list these things as a benefit. So what I encourage people to do is to list their benefits. That could be a company pension, so the contributions, which obviously if you're based in the UK and you employ people, you're obliged to offer pension to your team member, and you're obliged to pay a percentage of it, so listed as a benefit. You could include an annual training budget if that is something that is within your culture, or something. If you offer training, then consider what is an individual's budget for the year. Discounted services and products. This is something that happens all the time. It's sort of expected. And yet it's not listed as a benefit very often. You could then, the rest are really just ideas. It's, it's an extra holiday day for your birthday. To be perfectly honest, for one day's taking, it really doesn't make that much of a difference to the big picture. And if it makes your offer really appealing to the team member, then why not? In our example earlier, we talked about somebody wanting flexible working. Well, listed in the benefits. Yeah, we agree. Flexible working, you can leave at 3 on Wednesdays. And then you can also have something that is more long-term. After you've completed a period of time, we can enroll you in the company healthcare plan or whatever. You don't have to give everything away at the same time. Right. Anthony, any questions on the salary benefits?
No, very good stuff you covered there. And again, as you've highlighted, it's silly to offer these things and not, or to have these things and not capitalize on the fact that they are a benefit. So yeah.
All right. So just to let everybody know, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. So that means that either I or Anthony's face will suddenly loom large on your screen. And as far as my face is concerned, I apologize wholeheartedly. And I will close that down. I'm going to open another screen. Okay. Let's go share screen. So what I'm going to share with you is Loop HR. And I'm not doing a massive demo. I'm literally jumping into one team member. I'm going to pull together some of those, that KPI stuff that I was talking about earlier. And I'm going to start by, well, first of all, I'm going to check. Anthony, can you see the Loop HR screen?
Yes, I can. Yeah.
Okay, great. That's a good start. So essentially, we have here in a single screen, the employee benefit package, their salary package, their pay structure, their targets, and their reporting elements, that when their salary reviews are, if they've got retail commissions, what it is, and how that looks. So in Loop, what we wanted to do was to make this as simple as possible so that we can pull all the information into one place. You can see here, hopefully, depending on the size of your screen, minimum target, optimum target. This is something that we talked about earlier. I'm going to move, I'm conscious of the time. I'm going to click Edit Salary Package. What we do within Loop is we can build salary packages so you build salary packages to suit your business. And essentially you can have as many levels as you want and add different benefits for each level. But I'm not going to change a salary package. I'm just going to skip through. So this person is a revenue producing person. They're on a fixed salary and it's from an hourly rate, and the hourly rate is £13. Again, to make things simple and efficient, we have all the UK national minimum wage rates. If you're joining us today and you're not in the UK, or you're seeing this in a video later, then you can actually build your own rates in for your location. We're going to continue to the pay structure. And again, we have our performance pay. We talked about commission. You click commission, there's a drop-down list of different commission structures. Here's the bit that I wanted to talk about, which is the optimum gross hourly service sales target. We talked earlier where the industry statistically uses a multiple of base pay to come up with a target. And we did this for years. And I'm going to tell you why we shifted, because over the last year or two, people have really started to pay attention to the prices that they're charging. And they're really working out their prices in a much more realistic manner. So we believe we can now pin targets based on prices. That is why we're doing what we're doing. I understand that this is not entirely unheard of. I'm not suggesting that we've invented it, but what we have invented is and created this way of working. So I'm going to increase the size of the screen, and in here we've set the £70 optimum gross hourly service sales target as we used in our example earlier. If I change this figure, which I'm going to change it to £65, and you will see these figures here change dynamically. All the figures right across this graph change. I'm going to change it back to 70, or watch the figures, they all change. If your optimum hourly gross income or your stylist gross income was £70 an hour, net, that's 58.33. So here's your net income per hour based on overall income. Monthly, the optimum income for this team member on average would be 10,138, or weekly 2,333. We understand that the team member may not sell 100% of their time, and they may not sell it at the optimum rate. But what we want to do is you say, well, if you do, as the salon owner, are you happy with this level of income? Is that realistic? But what we want to do is then choose the minimum target threshold with which we can say to the team member, when you achieve this goal, your personal bonus will kick in, or your commission level will kick in. And we know we can afford it because Loop is going to show you before any bonuses or commissions are paid. Now, this percentage will differ based on the hourly rate that you're paying and the hourly income that the team member's bringing in. Yes, Mr. Antony.
I've got a question from David. He wants to know, can you set the income excluding VAT? Which is a great question. That was one I was going to ask. So thanks, David.
So no is the answer. However, here it will work it out for you as net. If you want to use a net hourly figure, then in the setup within Loop, you zero the VAT rate. And it will then just assume everything is all on a level playing field. It won't reduce or add VAT anywhere. And this is the only place that it does it. So if you wanted to take out that and just use net figures, then I suppose the answer is yes, you can do, David, no problem. The reason that we do gross is because that's the figure the team member sees. That's the money that is on the price list. That's why we do, and it's the only place we do gross figures. So optimum service income, minimum target threshold. We're talking language to a team member. What we want to do is we want to have them understand that you're giving them this leeway. So this is your optimum goal. And if you say weekly 2,333, but your target threshold is 1866, or whatever your figures are. This is based on somebody working 5 days a week, 40 hours. Okay, I have spoken long enough. We are getting towards the end of our time, and I'm very conscious that I don't want to run over. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen. But Anthony, are there any questions that you have or anything that I didn't explain clearly?
I just want to make sure there's nothing left there unanswered. What have we got in the Q&A?
Okay, so while Anthony's doing that, I'm just going to say a massive thank you to everybody for being here. For anybody that wants to have a list of the 9 categories that we used, do let me know. I will send them to you. So those chunked KPI examples, I will give you the whole sheet. Just send me an email.
Okay, there are 4 comments or questions there. Sometimes people put something in, but I'm never sure whether it's a question because it's not really asked as a question. It's sort of just a statement. So anyway, David said, excellent. Missed the net and gross on there. Thanks, David. Timothy has said, just yes, but it is unrealistic as VAT at 20% changes everything for the salon figures. I think that's been answered with what Ian said about you don't have to put the VAT in there. Kerry said, so are the monthly and weekly numbers inclusive or exclusive of VAT? I think you've answered that, Ian, by saying that they are inclusive, but if you wanted to set it to 0, you could.
Okay, so sorry, just to be clear, this line where it says hourly net and everything above is net. All
Right.
the figures are net. It's only the hourly gross figure, this figure. So here you see the correlation, £70 per hour is the gross, net is 58.33. Everything above that is net. If you wanted to remove the VAT element, you take out the VAT percentage in the loop settings.
Okay, and the last question is from someone with a very strange name, 8C89BD, is asking: does all the data have to be put manually, or can it be integrated with Fresher? So, as a booking platform.
So Fresher doesn't integrate with Loop HR is the answer to that question. Some systems do, and Fresher does not. But to be perfectly honest, the information depends on the size of your team. We have people with hundreds of team members, and we just help them if their point of sale system does not integrate. They still use the system. They can literally export a CSV file from their point of sale system, and they can import it, and it takes seconds to do.
Okay, and very last question, Anna's asked, does Forest integrate?
Yes, it does.
It does. Great. Okay. All right, Ian, that's it. We've gone just over the hour. Fantastic job. I've loved this format of doing things. I think it's been very good. Yeah, over to you to wrap things up.
All right, guys, thank you so much. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today. If you are interested, if you're not currently using Loop HR and you would like to, it is a HR platform specifically dedicated for the salon industry. You can go to our website and you can book a discovery call. We no longer have the ability to just try it for free. We have to go through a discovery call, make sure you're comfortable, you understand what it is that you're getting into. It's HR, it's massive, it's a big platform. Our job is to make it as simple as we possibly can for you. So that's obviously, loophr.com. And there's plenty of places to book a discovery call. Allow about 45 minutes. You can ask me any questions that you want as far as Salon HR, management, leadership, communication, and the processes that we use. Thank you. Thank you to the Salon Business Collective, to Phil for organizing everything. Great working with Anthony. Thank you very much indeed. And we'll see you in the next one. Anthony, when is yours? In May the
20th. So
May
very similar format to this. I'm going to be doing a presentation, not a PowerPoint presentation, but I'll be doing it in conjunction with Sam from Salon IQ. So yeah, we look forward to that, and you'll get an email about that for anyone who hasn't already subscribed. Make sure you block that time out in your diary. 10 o'clock UK time on Monday, 20th of May, I think is the date. I'm quite sure that's the date. So until then, let's bye from me.
And bye from me. Thank you. Take care.